So, let's talk about the middle child. But we're not going to rehash all the old stereotypes you've probably heard a million times. No, we're diving into something much deeper. We're looking at what Dr. KX, in his work Scripted Survival, calls a psychological script, a silent manual for survival written in childhood that pretty much dictates their entire inner world.
This quote from Dr. KX really just nails it, doesn't it? Not the first, nor the last, but the distance. And that's the key word right there. Distance. It's not about someone being intentionally mean to you. It's about this invisible gap, a space that's defined by what it isn't. And that quiet little space, that's where everything begins.
All right, so this whole thing kicks off in what Dr. KX calls the invisible position. And look, this isn't a role you choose. It's just cold math, right? You're born, you're plopped right there in the middle, and that simple fact of placement is the seed for an entire psychological reality. Okay, and this is an absolutely crucial point that Dr. KX makes. He argues that the primary wound isn't cruelty. Cruelty is an act. It's intentional. You can see it. You can react to it. The real problem is forgetting. It's this unintentional void, this sense that if you weren't there, no one might even notice. And that is so much heavier psychologically because you end up building your whole identity around an absence. So, what does your mind do when it's faced with that feeling of being invisible? Well, it gets clever. It builds its very first defense. This thought right here becomes the core logic of the whole script. If I am not seen, I will not be hurt. See what's happening? It's a subconscious attempt to take a painful situation and flip it into a strategy. It's turning invisibility from a problem into a kind of shield. But, the mind doesn't just sit back and hide. That initial invisible position actually forces a reaction, an adaptation. This is where a whole set of really sophisticated survival strategies starts to take shape. The script goes from just being about defense to becoming a full-on active playbook for getting by. And Dr. KX has a very specific name for this. He doesn't just call it emotional intelligence. No, he calls it survival intelligence, and the difference is huge. This isn't about being charming at a party. This is way more primal. It's a highly tuned skill for reading the invisible emotional currents in a room, not to connect with people, but simply to survive without getting hurt. So this survival intelligence basically runs like a 4-step program, constantly going in the background. Think about it. First, you learn to read the mood before anyone says a word. Then you anticipate conflict. You can feel it coming. Next, you find that perfect, safe little window to step in without making waves. And finally, and this is key, you retreat before you're pushed aside. It's a whole strategy designed not to win, but just not to lose. But here's the thing. You can't run these kinds of defensive programs for years and years without it taking a toll. Every survival script, no matter how clever, comes with a cost. A really high price. So what is the true long-term damage of mastering the silent game? And this is where we get to this huge contradiction. On one hand, the script creates a master of independence. You know this person, right? The one who's seen as the strong one, who never asks for anything. But that strength, it's really just a mask for deep, deep isolation. It's not that they don't want help, it's that the script has convinced them that help isn't coming. So you build this fortress around yourself, and you end up all alone inside it. Now we get to what might be the most dangerous line of code in this entire script. Dr. KX calls it the disposability complex, and it boils down to this single terrifying belief. If I disappeared, no one would notice. Now, this isn't just feeling a little down on yourself. This is a core belief that you are fundamentally irrelevant, that your presence is so optional that your absence wouldn't even register. And when you believe you're disposable, these kinds of behaviors start to make a twisted sort of sense, don't they? It is so important to see these not as just weird personality flaws. According to Dr. KX, they are learned defense mechanisms. Pushing people away before they can leave you, that's just preemptive withdrawal. That sudden sarcasm or cutting someone off, that's deferred anger finally leaking out. Each one is a tactic to try and control the pain you believe is coming anyway. So, after laying all that out, the script, the heavy costs, the big question is, are you just stuck with it? Is this programming for life? Well, Dr. KX says absolutely not. And that brings us to the final and maybe most important part, rewriting that script, moving from just unconsciously adapting to consciously taking control. When you look at all these patterns, the withdrawing, the anger, the fear, it would be really easy to just label this whole thing as a story of weakness, of being fragile, or maybe even being a victim. But that is completely missing the point. And Dr. KX is very clear on this. This is not a story about fragility at all. It's a story of incredible, silent resilience. I mean, think about it. It's the story of a mind that was put in a tough spot and built a whole complex system just to navigate it. That's not weakness, that's strength. So healing isn't about blaming yourself. According to Dr. KX, it's about reprogramming. And the idea is to start seeing these behaviors for what they are. They are not who you are. They are what you learn to do to survive. They're like old software. It was essential back in the day, but now it's outdated and it's just causing crashes in your adult life.
So what does that reprogramming actually look like? Well, first, you just have to recognize the script. See those patterns playing out, not as who I am, but just that old program I run. Then the really hard work begins, redefining your own value, separate from what other people think. From there, it's about practicing presence, just showing up to exist, not to fight for attention. And finally, learning to just ask for what you need, directly. No games, no guilt. That's how you start writing new code. And really, this brings us to the final takeaway. That entire old script, that whole survival playbook, was built around one question you were always asking the world. Am I being ignored? Am I being seen? The rewrite, the real path to getting your power back, is about changing the question entirely. It's about turning inward and asking a new one, a question that puts you back in the driver's seat. How do I choose myself now? And that question changes everything.